I've simulated Football Manager 2023 1,000 years into the future, and it's a future where some very interesting things happen. China have won the World Cup 38 times. Paris Saint-Germain have still never won the Champions League. Manchester City have won about a quarter of all Premier Leagues that have ever happened, and England haven't won the World Cup for nearly 1,000 years. There's a lot to get into in this. Hello folks, and welcome to this video where we are going to explore Football Manager 1,000 years in the future. As you can see, it is the 15th of July 2022. If you're wondering how long it takes to holiday Football Manager 1,000 years into the future, it's over 500 hours. My computer has been heating my house recently, and if you want to show some support for Kev's poor old processor, which is probably on its last legs, please make sure you leave a thumbs up on this video. We really, really need it. I'm probably going to have to buy a new PC after putting it through this. And if you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, turn your notifications on. There's loads more stuff like this, both on the channel and on the way. Plus, I do a daily Let's Play series, which is really rather splendid. Or at least I think so. Shall we dig in and have a little look around, though, and see what's going on? 1,000 years in the future. We have got England loaded. We've got the rest of the big 5 European leagues loaded, so we can have a look at Italy, Spain, France and Germany. We're also going to have a look at the European competitions, the international competitions, and Wayne Rooney's very short spell in charge of England. I mean, he's Jadon Sancho, also England manager, very briefly. But let's start with the Premier League, and we're going to have a quick look at what's been going on here. As you can see, it's a Premier League with some interesting members within it. If we have a look at last season, I guess, just to see how things finished last season. Bradford City, champions of the Premier League in 1,000 years' time. And that's a Premier League that also includes Shrewsbury, Bristol Rovers, Hull, Wrexham, Grimsby, Harrogate are in there, Solihull are in there, Halifax, Barnet, There's a lot of teams that you wouldn't necessarily expect to be in the Premier League. Obviously, Manchester City are there or thereabouts. They've won, I think, 275 Premier Leagues. They are the all-time record Premier League winners, so 275 out of, like I say, they've won about a quarter of all the Premier Leagues in existence. So Manchester City, apparently that money lasted a while. I don't know how recently they last won one. We'll dig into that in a moment. Can we go back to here and look at last season? We can. If we move back through the leagues as well, and in fact, before we do that, let's just, are there any other current Premier League teams? You know, we've got Brighton and we've got, is that it? Is it literally just Manchester City and Fulham are in there as well? 3 current Premier League teams have survived 1,000 years into the Premier League of the future. In the Championship, we have, that's not last season. Why doesn't it just not default to show us last season so we can look at the league table? So Manchester United, champions of the Championship, Luton runners-up, and Bolton coming up through the playoffs. And then again, we've got a very nice little mix of teams from all kinds of different levels of football knocking about in the Championship. I love, I mean, Carshalton. What league are they in real life? I don't think I've ever seen them down in the playable leagues in Football Manager at all. They seem to have come from absolute, I mean, they might be in like the National League South. Harlow, again, I don't think I've ever seen Harlow playable in Football Manager before, but here they are, knocking around in the Championship. Have they made? This is where we're going to find out they're multiple-time Premier League champions. They're not, but their league history. I mean, they've been around and about for a little while now. When did they make it into the Football League? I don't know why we're particularly picking on Harlow, but Harlow, there you go. They were down in the regional leagues 400 years ago, but have been at the top level for the last 400 or so years. So if you are a Harlow fan, you've only got to deal with another 600 or so years of knocking around in the regional leagues. And then all of a sudden, in 10 years' time, you burst into the National League South. And then 600 years after that, you're in the Football League and then you stay there. So you're golden if you're a Harlow fan. And let's have a look a little bit further down as well. So Chesterfield winning League One, Alfreton runners-up, with Bradford Park Avenue. Not Bradford City, who won the Premier League. Bradford Park Avenue also having a successful season. We've got 2 Bradfords in the top 2 divisions. That's Swindon Supermarine as well. Have Swindon Town been anywhere in the leagues, or is Swindon Supermarine now the biggest team in Swindon? Which, if you are in Swindon, that's probably some pretty impressive local news. The biggest team in Swindon is now Supermarine. And we've got, who else have we got in here? Mask. I don't know that I've ever heard of Mask. Grantham Town have made it up from the regional leagues as well. Guernsey are in here. I mean, anyone doing any Guernsey content on YouTube at the moment? Probably not. Can't imagine anyone would enjoy that kind of nonsense, would they? But if you are wondering how... Sorry. If you are wondering how a road to glory with Guernsey would go, it's going to take about 1,000 years to get into League One. There you go. Spoilers. Ruined that for you. You don't need to watch that anymore. Non-League to Legend every day at 4 o'clock here on the channel, boys and girls. What else have we got going on in... He is managing Guernsey. I think he is. And then in League 2, we have got Royston. I mean, lovely. This is most... Who on earth are Yate? I couldn't even hazard a guess about where in the country Yate is. What I've not seen Peterborough, and I've not seen Arsenal. They don't seem to exist in this version of the future. I'm just going to... that's not how you spell it. Arsenal. Which Arsenal do we mean? Do they just not exist anymore? Can that actually be a thing? Do I have to specify Arsenal Football Club? Are you telling me Arsenal don't even exist in this future? I've never seen that happen before. Peterborough. Peterborough? I mean, I guess when you've got so many non-league... There's Peterborough. Peterborough United are not in a league. I'm quite sad. Peterborough United fell out of the bottom of the National League North in 2018 and have not been seen since. The last time Peterborough United were in the Football League, oh my word. This is like the reverse Harlow is what this is going to be known as. Yeah, that's depressing. That is very depressing. What about Peterborough Sport? So I am managing in non-league to legend at the moment. Have they fared any better? Have we got a Swindon situation on our hands? Are Sports now the biggest team in Peterborough? No. They disappeared without a trace 600 years ago, and that's it. They're done. They're gone. No more. There is no football in Peterborough. Unless, I mean, well, that's quite sad. Let's just have a look at the rest of those Premier League records, see if there's anything else significant on there. So Man City with 275 Premier League wins. And let's go on to here. So 38 Champions League wins, 275 Premier Leagues. They're just winning it just all the way through history. It's not as if they've had any particular spell where they've done really well. They just win it quite often. So Manchester City, Barrow did a 0-point Premier League season. That is spectacular. And they're now down in the Evo Stick League Premier Division. They are long gone. Oh, is there any records on here? I tell you what, how we can find Arsenal. We can go and look at past winners. If we go all the way down here, there you go. They must still exist. They're in the Southern Premier Central. Wow. Oh, my word. Yeah, Arsenal they're done. They are full on non-league and have been for hundreds of years. Are they still playing at the Emirates? They are. The Emirates Stadium is over 1,000 years old. It's probably a little crumbly now, but they are still playing it deep in non-league. That is a glorious thing. Right, what other Premier League records have we got? Preston's undefeated season is still not... I mean, it wouldn't show on here if it had been matched, I guess. Anything else major? I don't think so. No. Okay. Past winners. Anyone else particularly interesting? I haven't noticed Liverpool anywhere as I've been going through this either. Have Liverpool gone the way of Arsenal as well? Liverpool, I can't find any... I mean, Liverpool. There you are, Liverpool. Northern Premier League, Division 1 M, whatever that means. Liverpool were last in the Football League. I mean, they fell out of the National League North over 500 years ago. And they're done. They're finished. They fell out of the Football League 700 years ago, never to return. They were last in the Premier League. Oh, my word. Liverpool were last in the Premier League. Oh, my word. Liverpool get relegated. They could get relegated in my lifetime if I look after myself. 2083, Liverpool fall out of the Premier League and never come back. How do you like that, Liverpool fans? Goodness me. Right, let's have a look around some of the other leagues. So we've got Serie A in Italy. What has been going? No, that's Brazil. Well, we have got Brazil loaded. I know nothing about Brazilian football, so we're not going to go and look through Brazil. What I am going to do is put a link to this file so you can download it and have a look through yourself. Be aware it's like 2 gig. It is a big meaty file, but if you find anything particularly interesting, let me know down in the comments section. I am very much up for doing a part 2 of this video. Let me know down in the comments what you'd want to see in a part 2, and also what you've found in the save file going through it. And feel free to make suggestions for interesting things I can show you for a part 2. So this is Serie A, and no Juventus, no Milan. I mean, there's more bigger teams that have survived in Serie A than there were in the Premier League. Lazio, Udinese, we've got Atalanta, Cagliari, Parma, Bologna, Torino, Inter getting relegated in this. So I think there is more bigger teams that have survived, but at the same time, you've got the notable big ones that seem to have gone the way of Arsenal and Liverpool. Milan, I mean, Juventus, there you go. Juventus are in Serie A. Have I just scrolled past them somehow? How did I not know? Oh, they must have just got promoted again, maybe. But AC Milan, I am not seeing anywhere on these recent competition winners. They wrote into a magazine and were awarded with a... I mean, to be fair, it might be what Juventus are getting up to. Who knows what's going on at Juventus? Bunch of rascals, aren't they? Milan, I'm getting worried about Milan. Milan? Where on earth are Milan? They haven't won it right. Can we just search for them? Milan. There you go, Milan. That's okay? So if I'd have just looked at the second tier down, we'd have found Milan, where they now reside apparently, and have done for quite some time. Oh my word! Yeah, Milan I've been in the second tier of Italy without a promotion or a relegation for 700 years. That might make them the most boring team in the history of the universe. If we have a look at the records, 86 times Juventus have won Serie A. Considering we've got 1,000 years worth of simulations, and they probably have, 20 or 30 in real life as it is, that is a significant spread that we've got in Serie A. Compare that to the Premier League, where Manchester City win it 275 times. To have the most times winner being Juventus on only 86 wins, that's really spread the wealth around really very nicely in Italy. Let's head to Spain and see what's gone on there. So La Liga, again, we'll have a look at the most recent season where Rayo Vallecano have got Barcelona as runners-up. I tell you what, a club the size of Barcelona to still be up there as a massive club, that's quite impressive. How many times have Barcelona won La Liga? Only 66 times. So they've won La Liga fewer times than Juventus have won Serie A. Only 6 times Champions League winners as well. So they only won 1 more Champions League after the simulations started, which I'm sure Barcelona aren't going to be that chuffed with. Real Madrid also still in the top flight. They have got, by comparison, 19 Champions Leagues. So again, they stopped winning it within 11 years of the simulations started and never got back. But 79 La Ligas for Real Madrid, I would suggest they're probably the all-time most winners, 79 for Real Madrid. So it looks like it's only the Premier League that becomes boring. English football's kind of turned into Scottish football. We just have a couple of dominant teams at the top, and that's very boring. What else have we got loaded? We've got France. What's that called? Ligue 1, isn't it? Ligue 1, where the winner most recently is Auxerre. who have won it there. Now, what I do know is Paris Saint-Germain have had an absolute nightmare in this future. Paris FC, definitely the biggest team in Paris and have been for a long time. 20 Ligue 1 wins for Paris FC. They are your big team in Paris. Paris Saint-Germain, I think, are down in the second tier. There they are, Paris Saint-Germain in the second tier in France, and they have only they've only won 27 Ligue 1s. To be fair, they have won one in the last 10 years, so it's not quite as bad as I thought it would be. But one thing I did notice before I started recording, which I've definitely put on the thumbnail, is we're 1,000 years in the future, and Paris Saint-Germain never did win the Champions League. They got one more runners-up in 2030, and that is your lot. We've seen that money buys success at Manchester City, not so at Paris Saint-Germain, who have never won the Champions League. They're probably a little miffed about that, aren't they? Let's have a look at the all-time records in Ligue 1. Most time won is Nantes with 50 wins, which is the lowest number we've seen yet in a major league. And they have also never won the Champions League, but they've got quite a nice little spread. They just keep coming back around every 100 years or so. They come back, win a couple of leagues, and then disappear back into obscurity, which I could get on board with that. That seems completely reasonable. And then to finish off the big five, let's have a look at the Bundesliga, where the most recent champions are Cologne. Have we got the big Dortmunder in there? Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich have been relegated with Schalke. Having managed Schalke on YouTube last year, that seems about right. Let's have a look at the records here. 73 wins for Bayern Munich. So it seems normal leagues have a team that's won between 60 and 70, 80 maybe league titles. For Manchester City to have dominated England the way they have is absurd. No other league has come anywhere near what Manchester City have done to that Premier League. I haven't seen how many Champions Leagues they've won, but I imagine that's going to be pretty significant as well. Shall we have a look at the Champions League? Of course we shall. Champions League then. Current holders Cliftonville. Wow. Past last season, please. Show me the final. Cliftonville beating Olympia Ljubljana in the final. Played in Kiev. Cliftonville. Good work, Cliftonville. I mean, we're not going to obviously go for 1,000 years of winners, but there are a few. Ross County picking up a win quite recently. FC Honka. Where on earth are they from? Finland. What a name. I want an FC Honka shirt. P.O. Box is down in the description if anyone wants to send me one. Please don't send me an FC Honka shirt. Most time winners, Slavia Prague with 45 Champions League wins. Manchester City look like they've been doing quite well as well with their big fancy stadium that they play in. But 45 times Champions League winners, Slavia Prague. I imagine they've, because we don't have the Czech League loaded, we can't actually look at their individual competition things. But that is interesting to see that a team from a league that's not loaded is the team that's absolutely dominated the Champions League. So you don't need to have the league loaded for them to be really, really dominant, it seems. Let's have a look at the Europa League as well. We're just going to go straight to the records. HJK off of Finland have won the Europa League a record 42 times. And then the Conference League, which I can't believe that's still going in 1,000 years. That has been won 26 times, by Ludogorets and Manchester City, doing their fair share of moving around in all these different competitions. How big is their ground? I guess it's this 140,000 Man City Stadium. Very imaginative, built in 26-24. How many times have they won the Champions League? 38. They're pretty much the dominant team in the world, aren't they? I don't know why I'm looking at their managers. We've got 1,000 years of manager history. I don't know who Ivans Holovs is. It is interesting to see who took over after Pep. Mikel Arteta. And then I don't recognise any more names. Scamacca did 16 years. And then I guess that was a new gen. That was a new gen. There you go. No wonder this save file is so big if it's saving all these details. I tell you what, we could spend hours going through all this. This is absolutely mad. Let's have a look at the World Cup, where I know, again, from my thumbnail research, that China have been absolutely dominant. 34 World Cup wins for China, which I think is a different number to what I put on the thumbnail. So We might need to give that a little bit of a tweak. Or maybe you can let me know down in the comments that I got the thumbnail wrong. Engagement. Am I that much? I am that much of a monster. Past winners. I mean, it's very much an Asian competition now. 3 for China, 2 for South Korea, South Africa. Last time there was a European team, it was Bulgaria, who I think Bulgaria have won quite a significant number of World Cups. Oh, we might have broken it. No, just took its time to load up this screen. So Bulgaria with 32 World Cups. Wales, I think, are the most successful team in Britain, which does make sense because it's the Welsh league that I've got fully loaded. The other leagues are view only. So there is going to be a little bit of Welsh bias, I should think. So Wales with 8 World Cup wins. When you compare that with England, I think England only have a couple. 4 World Cup wins for England, the most recent in 2074. So we are close. It's like 950 years since England have won a World Cup. But what I mentioned before about England managers, again, stuff like this is just fun to look through. So we go Southgate, then Nuno, Roberto Mancini has a go, Galtier has a go, Neil Harris had a go at managing England for 1 year, 2 years. Eddie Howe gets his chance in 18 years' time. Wayne Rooney becomes England manager in 2048, lasts 4 years before he's replaced by Thiago Motta, then Vincent Kompany. And then we get Jadon Sancho doing 2 years before Eric Garcia gets a go for a year. And Mike Maignan even gets 2 years managing England as well. I mean, look at him. He's absolutely delighted. 2 years as England manager. Why on earth not? Absolutely. I mean, he just has to appear in every one of these simulations, apparently. He was a superstar in my World Cup simulation video. And apparently future England manager as well. Let's have a look at the European Championships as well. So European Championships, most time winners is Bulgaria with 49. Bulgaria are just a superpower of world football. That's Bulgaria's best player. If you want to see what a top player for a top nation looks like, Martin Iliev, who plays for Fenerbahce. And holy smokes, look at that transfer value. That is crazy. Shall we look at some transfers? How easy is transfers going to be to look at? I guess if we go on here, and we're not really, it's not very meaningful, is it? Do we not have like an all-time transfer record anywhere in the world? Oh, this is just England as well. You can have an all-time English best 11. Aaron Ramsdale is the best English goalkeeper in 1,000 years. There you go. A little bit of good news for Arsenal. And Leon with 2 L's Grealish, which I assume is Jack Grealish's, I mean, it's 800 years in the future. Jack Grealish's great-grandson, and they've started adding a second L to Leon by that point as well. He gets in there. Raheem Sterling, Bukayo Saka is in there as well. This is beautiful stuff. So a couple of other things it can be fun to look at in these. The stadiums is always an interesting thing to have a look at. When we did 500 years in the future, the stadiums were a bit weird. And they're a bit weird 1,000 years in the future as well. Because in the Premier League, we've got Man United still playing at Old Trafford. Brighton still playing at the Amex. Brighton is lots of clubs still playing at their same stadiums. The majority of them still playing at their same stadiums, it seems. Which means Solihull Moors are in the Premier League with a stadium that houses 780 people. Obviously, Man City do have a new stadium, so it's not unheard of for new stadiums to be built, because Man City have got a stadium that was built in 26-24. So they can be built, they're just not built very often, apparently. Deepdale still standing in 1,000 years, as is Oak. I mean, I've been to Craven Cottage. It's like in the last 10 years, never mind 1,000 years. It's absolutely bonkers. We'd also have a little look at the Media Dream 11 to see who the best players in the Premier League are. And I mean, if ever you needed confirmation of the Asian dominance of world football, they're all Man City players, as you would expect. But we've got a Portuguese goalkeeper, Korean left back, Chinese centre back, South African right back, Chinese left wing, Slovenian centre mid, Belarusian centre mid, Chinese right wing, Chinese striker, and a Welsh striker. There you go. Let's have a look at Aaron Mannion, who only earns £100,000 a week. Apparently, inflation is not a thing in the future. And that's not a bad goal return for Wales, is it? Goodness me, 131 goals and 154 caps. he's had quite the pleasant career, hasn't he? Banging in the goals for Manchester City as well. But boys and girls, that brings to an end my whistle-stop tour of Football Manager 1,000 years in the future. Like I say, the file is going to be there in the description. You can download it. You can have a dig around it. You can play with it to your heart's content. You will probably break it because, I mean, don't try and start a save on it. Not recommended at all, but feel free to have a look around. Let me know down in the comments any interesting stuff you find and stuff you'd like to see me look at in a part 2. And if we get enough good suggestions, we'll do a part 2 in a week or two. I'm not going to be simulating any further in the future from here. This is plenty. 1,000 years is enough, but I'm definitely willing to come in and have another look if we find enough interesting little snippets of goodness. And if anyone wants to do fancy spreadsheet analysis stuff on it, very much would like to make that video. Just don't know where to begin. If you've enjoyed this, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on it for me. Like I say, it's been a huge amount of leaving the computer on overnight, 500 hours of simulation. My computer deserves the thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel for loads more Football Manager content. And thank you very much for watching.